Talmor, Shishin Magachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming. And death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Burntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I uncover the blasphemous truth of a plague-ridden world, that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The Heresies of Radolf Burntwine, coming January 2nd, wherever podcasts are available.
Hello, world. Welcome back to Thanks for Coming In. I'm your host, Jillian Clare. Today on the show, we have my friend Denzel Whitaker. He and I have known each other since we were wee children in this industry. We used to take acting classes together when we were just tiny babies. Not really babies, but like to me, 12 years old is being a baby. We have a very inspiring and insightful conversation, and I think Denzel is truly one of the smartest and most talented people in my generation. And it was a pleasure to get to be able to catch up with him and talk about his journey in this crazy industry. So here's my conversation with Denzel Whitaker.
What's up, everybody? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I said everybody as if, the audience is going to respond to me. But how are you doing? It's good to talk to you and anyone who's listening.
Yeah, right? Yeah, there's nobody else here, Denzel. It's just us.
Oh, that's all right. That's when you push the button and then you hear the fake claps, Yeah.
I'm going to have to add that in post.
I'm good. How's your afternoon?
Doing good. As I was telling you off the air here, I have been doing Ancestry, and it's just a very interesting hole to go down, and good Lord, I need to get out of the house.
Yeah, as we were speaking, just for anybody who's now catching up, that's a rabbit hole. So
It is.
anybody who's about to go down that rabbit hole, expect some surprises. And maybe you might find out your grandmother was, doing some things that she wasn't supposed to be doing. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, you could figure out that you have family who lived in very bizarre mountains in Mongolia. Like, it's just so crazy that that's even a thing.
If I got family in Japan, that would be tight.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
How has quarantine been treating you?
Quarantine's been good. Look, I'm my usual schedule is mostly working from home, outside of like auditions or anything where you want to hang with friends. So this is actually becoming quite normal. I'm settling into it nice.
You're thriving in this environment. I'm jealous.
I am. I think the only thing. Well, I guess I could say from my end, the only thing that I genuinely miss is maybe just the freedom. Say for so if you're driving around, you want to pop up on somebody or you want to get like a small intimate gathering together. Nowadays, you have to consider who you hang out with, who you even interact with.
I have friends who like won't hang out with those friends because they've seen them like partying on Instagram and they're like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to see you. I don't want to get COVID.
Yeah, but I mean, you knew your friend was wilding before COVID. That's what I mean. Like everybody's just got to move a little bit differently, and I think you make your moves based on not just the immediacy of now, but where do you want to go? You know what I mean? I think you got to move based on if you've got family members or yourself, if your health is stable. If you see yourself growing and thriving in an environment, you don't want to endanger that. I think something like this has only really magnified people's traits, behaviors, characteristics, and so like what you have intended for yourself. You know what I mean?
Totally feel that. Totally.
Yeah. So it's a moment to just set intentions high and just move with purpose.
I love that. I mean, you did something pretty remarkable during the pandemic, which is filming 5150.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the other thing that's like keeping me busy. Like literally before this call and right after this call, I will get right back into it. We probably since March when we started the Kickstarter,
Hmm.
and I think miraculous, and you know, definitely divine would be two words to describe it. Is like we got a crazy amount of funding. We actually surpassed our goal. We found ourselves shooting by the end of June, and I'd say since the end of June, I've probably been in post with my editor on Zoom every single day, and then now we're just wrangling up the remainder of our partners, and we're doing it
Hmm.
all virtually, remotely.
How was it filming like during the pandemic? Obviously, for people who haven't heard of 5150, it's a small cast, right? Like it wasn't a huge set.
No, it was fairly bare bones, but what the challenge is so 5150 is about this egotistical celebrity at the height of his career. His political antics and his bad behavior gets him landed in a psychiatric ward for 72 hours. And within that 72 hours, his publicist, his wife, and his mother come in and basically warn him of the dangers he faces to himself and to his career. So, from that standpoint, it was meant to already be a very small, compacted story. Now,
Right.
the thing is that we also have to build the world of the celebrity beforehand because as an
Mm,
audience member, you step into this movie and now all of a sudden you don't know who the celebrity is. Well, let us tell you that. So I think our biggest challenge past getting crew together was getting the extra bits outside where it's, we have to show them in the limelight, show what it's like,
right.
in the public. And so that's where we as a team had to become resourceful. Thankfully our lead actor is, actually somewhat of I'm not going to say somewhat, he is a known actor.
Yeah,
So
he's a very well-known actor.
very well known actor. So, there's already some material on him, out in the open. And
Right,
the
right.
same goes for like, okay, well, we could fictionalize this, make it look like paparazzi bits, whatever. And I think that's been one of our biggest challenges because, like, for typical filming, you might hire your background maybe like 2, 3 days before. You might tell your friend to pull up.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that anymore. You got to hire your background with your principals maybe 2 weeks out, get them
Mm,
all tested. Then you got to do a second round of testing. SAG is definitely way more strict,
yeah.
as well as getting city permits. And I would say, like, if filming didn't already have enough stressors, well, now it's the added benefactor of, you got a distance and you got to get the test and you got to have a
Hmm.
mask on. It just, unfortunately, it complicates the process a little bit more.
Yeah, and I feel like it has the potential of taking out that creative factor as well a little bit, only because it's like your brain is also so focused now on safety,
Hmm.
whereas we've never had to really do that before. In indie filmmaking, you can usually just go on the fly and say, "Oh, you know what? Do this instead this time." And it's like, "Oh, now I have to think about these very specific things like getting people too close together or
Yeah,
even, touching somebody."
absolutely, absolutely. And it's one of those things too, where like if you really want to do this black and white, like if you want to do it by the book, well, then there's just a little bit more red tape that you're gonna have to,
Mhm.
a little bit more hoops you're gonna have to necessarily go through. Now, plenty of friends I have, they've shot some stuff on the fly, but
Mm.
you're taking a risk. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you're taking a risk.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're risking the people that you're going to be around as well.
Exactly. And it's not just the people on set, it's literally you stepping off that set and then
Mhm.
everybody else you interact with who is in your personal bubble.
Right. People who are in your personal bubble. And I feel like people are also forgetting it's like, even if you just go to the store, then like you're also putting those people at danger. It's just such a wide spectrum of people that you're putting at danger if you're not being careful yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, how do you feel going to the store still?
Now I feel a lot better. I mean, I've personally been tested a crap ton of times because I was filming something and I was living in a bubble. So I
Mm.
feel okay. Um, But yeah, it definitely those first couple of months I was terrified to go anywhere. But
Right.
now I feel, I mean, I'm always wearing my mask. I have hand sanitizer up the wing wang. Like I was doing the thing where you get home and you go in the garage and you take off all your clothes and then you put your robe on and you immediately throw those clothes into the washer. I went like full throttle there for a couple months.
Yo, for real. Because we didn't know what we were. I mean, it's just like anything
Right. It was
else.
scary.
you don't know what the imminent threat is. You just know there's a
Mm-hmm.
threat around you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the weird thing is too is that we don't know the long-term effects on it either. So we don't know what somebody who had COVID who thankfully survived is going to feel like 3 years from now if they're still going to have some sort of a symptom or some long-lasting effect from it. It's just so bizarre.
It's wild times, man. It's wild.
It's wild times.
I was talking to my mom's today, not to go down the COVID rabbit hole, but it's just like, what is our industry going to look like? You know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's crazy because I think some of these bigger studios, a lot of them are owned by tech companies, or either they've been around for multiple years, or there's
Mm-hmm.
money that's backing them, which we're not going to get into the legalities of that, but it's there. Uh, they'll be okay, but some
Right.
startups or people who are just now getting their breaks, or you on the cusp of something, or you had one big movie, but you're still kind of on an indie level. It's
Mm-hmm.
treacherous territory because unless you're being innovative during this time,
Yeah.
what is your pivot moves going to look like? You know what I mean? Because you definitely got to pivot. Everybody got to pivot.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
It's very I don't know what it's going to look like and it hurts me because I think independent filmmaking is so important and it's definitely something that I've been living and you've been living now for a while with indie filmmaking and I feel like this side of our industry has kind of seen just a total shutdown because it's just such an expense to try to even be able to shoot anything on a shoestring budget.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. I think, I hate to say it, but actually, I feel like independent filmmaking might still thrive
Mm,
because I think there's some hoops that you don't have to go through where like studios, you know, The Rock, Kevin Hart, etc. Like I've heard of some studio things that are supposed to be happening, but which one of those guys is about to really risk their life and risk
yeah.
the crews because they're working at bigger sizes? So I'll say this much for independent filmmakers. I think the smaller operations are going to be able to move a little bit
Mhm.
quicker,
Mhm.
but still, I think the medium as a whole is going to suffer. You know what I mean? It's just,
100%.
yeah, you just gotta get creative. And then once you got it in the can, then I think distribution, especially with streaming platforms and
Mhm.
whatnot, all that's opening up. So I think the distribution is actually getting a little bit better. To,
Yeah, it's funny when we got into this quarantine, the first thing I said was, "I am so upset I don't have a film in post-production right now because
yeah.
this would have been the perfect time to be in post for something."
Oh, are you kidding me? Drop something when nothing's happening?
It would have been great.
Everybody's on their phone.
Oh man, would have been awesome.
Yeah. Everybody's on their phone, so as soon as you share some news, like it has a chance to actually do numbers.
Yeah.
Like people are breaking numbers, whether it be like records or film or
Mhm.
whatever it may be, but that's just because everybody's home. Or
Everyone's
should be
home.
home.
Yeah. I know. I know. Well, the second film that I directed came out like March. I think it was like March 18th or something like that. I don't know, somewhere in the middle of March. So we hit just right when all of the kids got like
Mm,
sent home from school, and we're like, fantastic.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is great for us because now kids are home in the
yeah.
middle of March and they can watch the movie.
That's amazing.
I
That's
know it was great.
amazing.
Okay, so enough of COVID.
Sure.
Take me back because we met. Let's see, we were probably what 12 or 13 when we initially met.
Yo,
It
yeah,
was something like that.
yeah.
Because I remember like texting you on my sidekick after I think we were in Lisa Kaufman's class together, and I
Mhm.
totally remember texting you on my sidekick because I thought my sidekick was the coolest thing in the world.
That kid's the
Um,
coolest thing.
so what got you into acting when you were a kid? Because that's not something I've ever really known about you.
Seriously?
I don't know how you got into it. I just know you from like the moment that we met. You know?
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the tripped and fell into acting. Really, like
Hmm.
the short side of the story is I had a relative who recommended me at one of those kiosk booths in the mall and signed me up. And my parents get a call. Now they used a fake name, so we never really found out who the relative was until many years later.
Oh.
Uh, Went and tried it out, and for me, Jill, it was like one of those moments where it was so freeing. And
Hmm.
my father, he's a mechanical engineer. He's an architect for HVAC company.
Wow.
So he always thought I would maybe follow in his footsteps of engineering. Like he would
Mm-hmm.
get my brother and I pencil sets. So I was very much an artist at a young age. So I thought I was going to be, a cartoon artist or something,
Oh, wow.
pen and paper. I never thought it was going to be acting, but and it wasn't sports for me. I couldn't stand sports. Like sports didn't interest me.
I
Uh,
feel you on that. There's no way.
yeah, it just wasn't my bag. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was one of those things where I remember being in that class, um, in that exhibition group, and it was so freeing.
Hmm.
I remember, Jim Carrey sort of talking about how he felt like he was putting on characters. Like I really did feel like I was putting on a character and not myself. It's sort of like you just black out. From that moment, I loved it. The management ended up being one of those scam talent management. So
Oh, yeah. Those are
yeah,
fun.
I mean they're around. They collect money. They got a great business model. Like as an
Yeah,
adult,
they do.
I get it, but as a kid, my parents suffered, but they thankfully enough, my parents were super supportive and they were
Hmm.
like they could see that this was something that I wanted to do. And believe it or not, my first role was Training Day, which was a background talent role that got bumped to a principal. And that
I love when that happens. That happened to me as
yeah,
a kid too.
did it. For what?
Yeah.
For what?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Oh, what?
Yeah. Same thing. I
Yeah.
got hired as like a background actor when I was like 8, and then Sam Raimi started feeding me lines, and all of a sudden I got bumped up to principal.
Yo, same thing. Wait, hold on. You were in the trolley where like
Yeah.
the end. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just the girl crying.
No, I remember that because I love that movie. Like it's one of the best superhero films of all time. I used to watch that shit back and forth.
It's
Well,
so good. I love
yeah.
it too.
Yo, that is so crazy. I have not thought about that scene for maybe a couple years until you just reminded me. And every time I would see it, I was like, "Yo, there's Julia!" I'd freak out. That's so dope.
I love that. So that the same thing happened to you on Training Day. How bizarre!
Yeah, literally the same exact thing.
Wow. So
Yeah,
that was the first big set that you were on then.
that was the first big set. That was the first big anything. Okay, so
Isn't that wild though? Like that first time, I remember doing Spider-Man and it just feeling like such a huge thing. Like it's just mind blowing when you're a child.
well, first of all, you're working on a whole different. A lot of people ask me like, "What was that experience like being on a set?" Now, you said you were 8 when you did Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was 10 when I did Training Day. Now, let's honestly answer this because when people ask me this question, I'm like, well, I was 10. There was so much going on. I didn't
Yeah.
know anything about acting. Like,
Yeah.
I
The
was,
only thing I remember from it is that like Kirsten Dunst was the coolest person in the world, and she took me and a couple of the other girls took me to her trailer, and she painted our nails. Like that's what I remember of the
oh, wow.
experience.
Yeah. That's so cool. I remember Oreos and I remember it being a long day, and I remember
Yeah.
we were in the middle of Watts, which as a young black male, you don't want to be stuck in Watts if you don't live there. And Macy Gray was definitely a colorful character, and Denzel, he showed up. He had the briefcase with the metal guns in it, and
Oh
he
my
had like
gosh.
2 Desert Eagles, and he was like clicking the guns, and he was like, "So your name's Denzel too, huh?" And he just walks away. But it was the same sort of thing. Like Denzel kept, asking me questions, and I didn't know the rules of what I was supposed to do, so I kept
Right.
responding to him. You know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think when you're a kid and you're around like big stars like that, and you're not really aware of it. And I
Mhm.
think that's probably why stars talk to the children on set so much, because you have that innocence of like not being starstruck or like knowing who they are. You're just a kid who's like, "Hey, I'm here and you're here and what's up?"
Exactly. It goes so far over your head, like it
Mhm.
doesn't even register. Yeah.
Mhm. Wow. So Training Day, and then what? Then so you're 10 when you do Training Day, and then how long until you did the Great Debaters?
So Great Debaters was when I was 17. And in between that time, series regular on all that, which definitely, I mean,
So fun.
yo, you were right there in the mix. I mean, I always think about that time where we were young kids in the mix of like young Hollywood.
Yeah, and like going back and looking at all those weird photos of like all of us together at all these events when we were like 15, 16, it's just so bizarre.
Just think about it, like our parents were taking us to these events because we were supposed to be networking, and it was
Yeah.
like us hanging out. And then I know like some of our friends were Were you homeschooled, by the way?
I was, yeah. Well,
Okay.
I graduated out when I was 16. I took the Chesapeake.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did the same thing, but stayed in it. But like we were homeschooled. Well, here's what I'll say. I went to a public school, but I was never there. Uh, but we that was the only way like we could hang out or like we could interact, and
It's true. It was like our high school. All those weird events that we were always at was like our high school.
that was our clique. That was our connection. So yeah, definitely all of that. That was one of the moments where like the whole Disney Nickelodeon camp where we all had aspiration as teenagers to be on that, those networks.
Yeah, and isn't it funny that like when you're a teenager in this industry, everyone just, at least at that time, everyone just pushed you to Nick and Disney. Like everything was, you need to be on these networks. End of story.
Oh, that was it. That it seemed like that was the only thing you could be on.
Mm-hmm.
A movie would come around every once in a while, but Nick and Disney, woo! If you
you get on that Endgame.
Yeah, you're booming. Next thing you know, you're riding in limos. At least that's what you used to think as a kid.
Right?
Yeah.
Really, it's just sneaking into the Kids' Choice Awards. That's it.
Oh my God, the KCAs. Yo, man, I don't know if were you there that year where I jumped on stage and I did Rapper's Delight?
I think so. I think that's actually the year that I snuck in with my ex-boyfriend.
Yo! Wait, hold on. Who were you? Was it someone with a V or who?
Yeah, Vinny at the time. It was Vinny Pergola.
Yeah. Vinny. Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer your question before we go down memory lane as actors, yeah, it was. I did like some television stuff. Had some commercials like Aflac commercials, Adidas commercials, different things like that. Went to do all that. Was on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Great Debaters popped up around 17.
Mm-hmm.
That was really my transition from, I guess you could say, like, television episodics into film. Like that was my first major film, for me, that sort of helped me to cross over.
You can shop from anywhere doing pretty much anything. You might shop while working, eating, or even listening to this podcast. And however you shop, we all know and love the thrill of the hunt. But do you also know how to get the thrill of the best deals? Because Rakuten shoppers do. With Rakuten, they get the deals they love with the most savings and cash back. And you can get it too. Start getting cash back at your favorite stores like Sephora, Nike, and even Expedia if you're looking to get some travel in. And getting cash back doesn't mean you have to miss out on sales because those can just be stacked right on top. It's easy to use and based on a simple idea. Stores pay Rakuten for sending them shoppers, and Rakuten shares the money with you as cash back through PayPal or check. Download the free Rakuten app and never miss a deal. Or go to Rakuten.com to start getting the most bang for your buck. That's Rakuten. As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But we also sell merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell and grow at every stage of your business, from the launch your online shop stage all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage? Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. They have an all-in-one e-commerce platform and in-person POS system, so wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. With the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers. Shopify has allowed us to share something tangible with the podcast community we've built here, selling our beanies, sweatshirts, and mugs to fans of our shows without taking up too much time from all the other work we do to bring you even more great content. And it's not just us. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Shopify is also the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Because businesses that grow grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/REALM now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/realm.
And that's so special. It's rare to find a film that does that, especially for young actors.
Yeah, that one, Great Debaters, is always going to be a special one in my heart because you know, as a black actor, there's very few times where roles like that come around. Great Debaters was kind of like a pioneer at its time before we went down the you know avenue of slave pictures and the depiction of
Right.
oppression and black history. Like, Great Debaters was something that was kind of on its own. It was meant to be, a historic lesson. And
Mm-hmm.
that film, for me, I think it grows in its importance for other people because they show it in schools, they show it at colleges. But even for
Wow.
me, like as an adult, like it continues to grow in its importance, every single year. So
Yeah.
set to the backdrop of like the Black Lives Matter movement that just happened, like there's so much that I think was built into me and within my character that I didn't really quite open up.
Mm.
And, as me and say for so my fellow peers and especially, other black people that I know, we were talking about it. There were certain experiences that I had on that film that I took away from and definitely molded me from that moment to now. You know what I mean?
I totally get that. I had this moment recently where I remember I was looking at old pictures and I found these pictures from a show I did called Meet Me at the Oak when I was like,
Mhm.
I don't know, 9 years old. And it was a story. It was a story about a young white girl who falls out of her tree, and her neighbor, who's a young black girl, was with her, and she dies. My character dies, and because of it, the families like hate each other now, and they start blaming the little black girl for the little white girl's death. And I had this moment of like realization that because of I had been in that play, it really affected the way I think about things and the way I grew up. And actually found the writer. His name's Leon Gray, and he's still writing amazing plays out in New York. And I found him and I messaged him and I was like, dude, I just realized that your play actually shaped the way I thought about things when I was a kid. And
Wow.
it translated into my adult life. And I never really put it together. But I think because of being in a show like that, where it's like, here's the blatant like racism of the 1950s put out in front of me every night, I was somehow able to get that into my brain as a very young child, which I feel like needs to happen anyway, but that's a whole different story.
No, it definitely that's incredible. And similarly, like if I were to share sort of a story in tandem with that,
Mm-hmm.
there was this moment in the Great Debaters where we come across a lynching in the back
Mm,
roads of Louisiana. Well, it's supposed to be Texas, but we shot in the back roads of Louisiana, pretty much right on the border of Louisiana and Texas.
mm-hmm.
And I remember the day uh, just like it was yesterday, just kind of the feeling, actually being on those roads and thinking to myself, like, there's no street lights. Like, what if you're just out here
Mm,
at night? Even as a 17-year-old, you're thinking, like, how do people live in these conditions? And there were mansions, where families were out there, but of course, those families happen to be white. So
mm-hmm.
we're shooting during the day and nothing's really, too alarming or too triggering. But as the sun started to set, we knew there was this lynching scene that we had to film. So as
Mm,
soon as, the props department starts bringing out the rubber body and, of course, stringing it up on the tree, because they got to test it, of course.
right.
Um, but you could just feel the air, the atmosphere of the set just change.
Yeah.
Even though, we didn't really have like a racially divided set, even at lunch, it was almost like the people of color and black people were sitting in one section and then, like white people were sitting in the other section. And it almost became like a self-segregated lunch. And I remember like the transpo guys had, caught some flack because they were making jokes over the airwaves. They instantly got fired. Uh,
Oof.
yeah, the neighbors who were out there, like I said, who own these like mansions and ranches and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
they came out with like chairs and beer canisters, and they're watching it like it's a spectacle, which it
Oh
most
God.
likely isn't. And we as actors, we're in the back of the car, and as we're even doing the scene, we pull up, as directed within the script, we pull up to basically a mob of white people lynching what would be this black man. And I remember like all of those background actors just basically turning around, and something about it didn't feel like acting.
Oh
I
God.
don't know the intentions of what are in people's hearts, but I can only say that set within those parameters and being within a scene like that and experiencing it within that context was probably one of those moments that really, really made me feel connected to my ancestors of what they had to go through on a daily basis on some regular back roads where like that was normal life for them, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and it's one
That
of
must have just been so heavy to deal with, especially at 17. I mean,
Well, the crazy thing about it is, I think it's kind of like the experience that you just put forth is like, at the age of 17, I knew I was acting,
right.
but I knew it was real. And it most certainly influenced, because we tried to shoot as much as we can in chronological order. It definitely influenced, the ending speech that I delivered within the film.
Hmm.
But even to this day, like I said, as we're experiencing the traumatic events and as we're
Mm-hmm.
experiencing this racial injustice, it's like that then pops back up in my mind. And as like a 30-year-old adult now, the context of that scene weighs a little bit heavier, even today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can't even fathom filming that, but I do understand what you're saying. It's like when you're young and you're experiencing those types of atmospheres and scenes specifically because you're acting, it's not really something that you comprehend to its full extent.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's one of those things where similar to you, that film definitely changed and molded my perception
Yeah.
in a way that was necessary. And I think everybody's experiences are tailored to everyone's life because no one
Hmm.
lives the same life. So very much so where if I have a cousin who lives in the South who's experienced it firsthand versus me who as an actor from Los Angeles might not
Right.
experience that. That was my connection, you know?
Yeah. And isn't it interesting that too, like as actors, especially as child actors, we were able to experience things that necessarily we wouldn't have been around. And because of how we got to experience them, it's now affected our adult lives.
Absolutely. I mean, it's still in general, just whether we're children or adult, like name me another profession where in one instance you're hired to learn the piano, and next
Mm.
you're learning to dive. And I learned how to drive
True.
a stick shift from
Oh my gosh.
you know.
Really? What'd you learn to drive the stick shift for? Because God, you need to teach me. I'm bad.
It was this movie I shot in South Africa. Funny enough, it's supposed to be a movie in San Francisco, but we shot in South Africa.
What?
And so on top of learning how to drive a stick shift, I'm learning how to drive on the opposite side of the road.
Oh my God, no. I
Yeah.
would have crashed in 5 seconds. It would have been done.
Oh my God. Well, I've always wanted to learn. My dad wouldn't teach me because like from the age I was ready to drive a stick shift, he always had really nice sports cars, and he was like, "You're not about to mess up my clutch." So
Smart man.
right, exactly. So I learned on set, and it was one of those things where okay, cool, I did this, and then me and my buddy we actually traveled around Europe directly after the film, and so I
What?
did a manual car, and my dream was to always drive on the autobahn, and I taught myself for maybe about a week and a half driving on the autobahn how to learn stick shift. Thankfully, to that movie.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the world of acting, like there are some cool things that we get to do where you get like weird life experiences. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, it's acting is definitely one of those things where it's like I know certain things that I definitely shouldn't know. Like there's no reason for me to know them, but I know them because I played a character who had to know them.
Exactly. If you didn't know them, you wouldn't be as truthful to the character. So you have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like did I have to learn Morse code for something? Yes. Could I do it again now? Probably not, but
I mean, that's gangster. I want to know Morse code.
if I ever relearn how to do it, I'll teach you.
Yeah, please do, and then we'll rent the stick shift car, and I'll teach you how to.
Okay, perfect. So recently you have a movie that just came out, right? Follow Me. that just come out?
It's coming out September, what is that, 18th? Yeah, it's
18th.
now called No Escape. I think for the US, they're
No Escape.
retitling it. No Escape coming out September 18th. Cutthroat City coming out August 21st.
Look at you.
Just on the back burner.
Killing the game.
Both of those movies were shot 2 years ago. But
I love that. And then now they're like, oh God, we need content. Push.
yeah, exactly. Well, the indie market, it's like, even though they have, some notable names and whatnot, the indie market, it takes time. And
Yeah.
that's one of those things where, like, a lot of friends are hitting me up right now, like, oh man, yo, you got 2 movies coming out in the pandemic. You've been working.
You're like, actually, I've been chilling, but
Well, I mean, it's exposure.
yeah, exactly.
Good
exposure. We love that.
Yeah.
I have to ask you what it was like filming Black Panther, because that must have been like the coolest set ever.
Unreal. That's for the same way we compare like being 10 and 8 on a large set.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I would even ask you, how was filming Spider-Man if you were, a little bit older and able to contextualize. Like, Black Panther, it's one of the biggest sets I've ever been on. The secrecy and the privacy of the content, especially because all that stuff leaks on the internet now, which is so funny. I actually have a side story, since we're Spider-Man kin at this point. So, there was a time I was shooting on the Sony backlot, and we were shooting Spider-Man 3. And so by that time, like, the internet was already buzzing. Like, Spider-Man 2 was a success, Spider-Man 1 was a success. So I got to see Spider-Man in the black suit, and I got to see, the Sandman at the time, what he was doing. And I remember, like, on whatever iPhone I had at the time, I had taken pictures, posted it online, and, like, I was like, yo, guys, you'll never believe it, I was on set. And the internet was like, we don't believe you. Who are you? Like, there's no way you got these from set.
Oh my God.
I'm thinking to myself, like, the line of believability on the internet is so thin.
It's so thin.
But at the same time, too, like, the reason why I bring that up for Black Panther is nowadays everybody can't wait to get their hands on that type of information. They want to find out everything. So the roadblocks in place, like, you get your script electronically. You have to sign for your sides daily. You maybe only get your piece of the script and nothing else. There's pictures posted everywhere between, like, the offices that they were running out of and the studios that we were filming at. Don't take photos. Contract, like, you can't do anything. And
yeah, because I remember when it came out and being like, holy shit, Denzel's in this. What?
No, you can't. So the reason why you didn't know I was also in it was, number one, because for whoever's seen the movie, I'm involved in a pretty big scene reveal.
Yeah.
At the same time, too, I only had those 2 pages from my audition to shooting to wrap. I only had those 2 pages.
Wow.
No idea where my character fit into the actual film. So I didn't.
Oh, that's so crazy.
I didn't know if my scene was going to get cut or not.
Like, you have no idea the huge importance that your character had.
No idea at all. I'm sitting in the premiere and I'm like, I don't even know what movie I'm about to experience right now. It was the first time I could say, as an actor, I didn't know what I was going to watch, and it was so enjoyable. But yeah, it was. I didn't know whether I was going to get cut or not, so I was so afraid to tell anybody I was in the film. And it was a big scene reveal, so I was like, if I do tell someone, I'm giving away a character as well.
Yeah. It must have felt like being at Disneyland when you saw that then, because it's just like, to be a part of something that huge and not really realize like how big your character was in the making of it as well is just so wild to me.
Jillian, let me tell you this, because you'll understand it. It's like, there was day one when I showed up to set after I did like wardrobe fitting and all that. Mind you, wardrobe fitting, Ruth Carter killed it. Like,
just crazy.
There were different tribes for Black Panther. We walk into the warehouse and there's like rows and racks of sections for each tribe, not let alone the original costumes that you're supposed to have. So that was its own, what would be a normal soundstage that people film on.
Yeah.
That's just wardrobe.
Holy crap.
Now you get to set and I go to meet Ryan Coogler because we have yet to meet.
Oh my God.
So he's like, they're doing a scene with like some 50 caliber like gun off the side of like a Jeep Wrangler or whatever, and
Mhm.
they're firing actual rounds. Well, not like real rounds, but like um, and it's the forest scene where the Congo first shows up.
Oh
Now
my
you
god.
have 12 military vehicles in there, all authentic dirt, trees that have been flown in and potted into the ground. And I mean, like,
What?
potted to some extent. Like, there's moss and grass, and there's a whole blue green screen that's covering around that. So they're able to drive 12 cars through this. And let me tell you this much: that's only maybe 1/8 of the soundstage that we were shooting on.
Jesus.
Building
That's
out shit.
wild.
They're building out, like, the royal throne that Black Panther, T'Challa sits on. Like,
Mhm.
everything is built out. Even, the scene that I'm in, which is an apartment in Oakland. Whole thing's
Right.
built out. The whole hallway is built out. And
Oh
it's
my
on
god.
platform risers so the camera can get below it if it needs to. Get this, Jillian. For the scene that I'm in, which is only 2 pages long, right?
Mhm.
We shot that over the course of 2 days.
Okay.
When have you ever shot a scene that's just talking over 2 days?
Literally never. Like never. Because
No,
it's usually like, I guess on regular film sets it'd be like half a day maybe.
half a day, if that, if you get the
Yeah.
luxury. Yeah.
1/4.
Hmm.
That's wild. I just can't even imagine the experience of like sitting there and watching something that incredible and knowing that you were a part of it.
It's it's wild, and you just kind of take it all in. And
Mhm.
you one of the things my mom asked me before I went out there was, she was like, because this is when I was definitely taking my directing career a little bit seriously,
Mhm.
more serious, and wanting to, sort of build that skill set of mine. She was like, "Do you ever think you could direct something like that?" And before I was going out there, I was like, "Mom, hell no. I don't think I could do something like that."
Mm.
But I got to the set, and I got to watch Ryan Coogler work, and I got to watch all these different departments work. I
Mhm.
just realized that something of that scale, something of that magnitude, what the money affords you is time, and it affords you resources, and it affords you the best people at their
Right.
craft possible.
Right.
And so you just take it in steps. It's the same thing. It's like the process is still the same, but you better damn sure know what to do with the resources, because we're going to give you the resources. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
100%. I mean, yeah, if you have the money and you have like a script that's that well written,
Hmm.
then you can get the people who are incredible production designers and incredible prop masters and everything else that goes in between. And it's just, things like that really prove how much you need every single person on that set to be at their highest working ability constantly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A movie like that, I mean, just any movie in general, like the how would you say, industry of filmmaking does not prevail without teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a solid team. Like, you could dance as an artist solo. You can paint as an artist solo. Filmmaking
Mm-hmm.
is one of those things where it's like it's a collaborative effort. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It's funny, people used to say all the time, like when YouTube was starting, like, well, why don't you just, post acting videos? I'm like, because that's not like, I can't just post a song like a singer can just post a song. Like, it takes, if you want to do something good and you want to do something well, like, it takes an entire team of people to come together and create something that's meaningful to everyone who's on board.
Absolutely. If you want the quality to be there.
Right. Like, if you just want to upload a
Yeah.
monologue, go for it. But,
If you want to do some TikTok videos, I mean,
oh,
sure, that's a
God.
whole avenue, but
I downloaded TikTok once and I like posted the movie trailer on it, one of my movie's trailers, because I thought that's like what you did. And then I realized that that's not what you do. And therefore I deleted it. I was like, oh, great. I'm just not going to even try with this.
yo, that's one of those things where, count my age, I'm good.
I
I'm
know.
so good.
I know. Oh man. Okay. So the point of my show here is that we tell stories of sadness and fun stuff and weird things that maybe a weird audition or a funny audition or something that you almost got that you really wanted. Do you have any stories that you would like to share for the audience that's not
Sure.
here?
Let's see, weird auditions.
There's
Um,
some weird
I
ones.
mean, Listen, we got stories, we got weird auditions. I remember there was this one time, there was this part I really wanted. I forgot what it was. It Superhero High School or something. Do you remember that Disney show where it's about like a black family and they were superheroes?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Wait,
A movie that it came out.
I do remember I remember seeing it, but I don't remember the name.
I don't remember the name either. But I'll put it like this: I wanted that role so badly,
Mm.
and I did the callback, and we even had like the session after that for network. And I remember it was my birthday. I didn't
Oh
make the test
gosh.
that year. My agent calls me, tells me I didn't get the job, and I'm sitting in bed like watching I think Dragon Ball Z or something like that. And I remember just like crying for
Yeah.
my birthday because I didn't
Yeah.
get the job. Yeah. And
Oh.
yeah, that was probably like one of those moments where it's like, nothing's really guaranteed to you. Or just
Yeah.
pilot season. For any actor who experiences pilot season, that is just it's the most grueling process every single year
Oh
because
yeah.
you end up doing multiple auditions. You might have like 4, 5, 6 auditions. You sign this contract where you're looking at the number and you're like, oh yeah, those checks could change where I move
You're
tomorrow.
like, oh, I like that number. That's a good one.
I love that number. Your agents are negotiating like, yeah, we got you this number. I'm like, great, cool. Do I get it?
Yeah, am I gonna actually make it, or is that just a negotiation?
Yeah. And then you're sitting outside the waiting room with like 2 or 3 other people who generally are either your friends or they're the same people you always audition against.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, good luck, man. Yeah, you too. Good luck. You're hearing them do the audition in there like, shit, I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna kill it. You go in there, you come out and you're just like, fuck. Like pilot season, man, is one of the most daunting tasks. And you know what's funny about pilot season? And I don't want to be too vocal about this, but it's like these are some of the people who you've auditioned for all year round, if not
Mm-hmm.
multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
You've guys seen what I could do, but now we need to test you in front of the network. So if you even test for pilot season, like say you get down to like round whatever and it's one
Mm-hmm.
or two other people, that whole process starts back over again. And the network's like, we don't know if you could do it. You got to
Yeah.
test again.
Yeah. I think the whole like pilot season thing is just kind of so outdated. Like there really isn't a pilot season anymore, especially with all of these, streaming services. It's like we're making series whenever we want to make series now, and people are tuning less and less into regular network shows. Like I feel like it's just such an outdated practice, and the whole testing and all that kind of crap. Ugh, drives me nuts.
It's a thing. It's big Hollywood. You know what
It
I mean?
is big Hollywood. I remember I had this one day where I had gone in for an audition for a pilot. I think I was 12 or 13, and I went in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had a callback at like noon. And then they called me, and I was testing by 4 p.m. at the studio.
Yeah.
And it was just so bizarre. It was just like an entire day of just this one audition. And then I didn't end up getting it because I was just like a sacrificial lamb to make the network get the other person that they wanted. Because that happens a lot too.
Oh my God, does that happen?
Yeah, so that sucked. But it's crazy.
You don't have to ever face this, but be the ethnic play that they wanted. Where this happened to me maybe a couple of pilot seasons ago, where it was this role, they really loved me, like network was head over heels. Well, I was the ethnic option because once I got to the testing round, there was me and 3 other white dudes, and it's like the description didn't say white; it actually said any ethnicity. And if I believe correctly, I believe it said looking for specifically like Indian or black or Latino. So y'all specifically sent me through this ringer to then test me against 3 white dudes who you already knew you wanted to test.
It's just so disappointing. It's just so disappointing.
Yeah, but what?
It's just such a Hollywood thing that's going on right now, where it's like all of a sudden they're like, oh, let's push diversity, and then they push diversity in like such simple areas instead of like actually pushing diversity the correct way of like putting black leads in things that are like the fucking like Mike and Molly shows. Like, why don't we have that?
Well, Jillian, you know as well as I do. metrics and politics and look, I'll put it like this. I don't know if you feel this way, but stepping behind the camera and kind of learning the process of filmmaking or trying to sell a show or just trying to like do something from the ground up instead of walking to it as an actor, I at least have a little bit more of an understanding. I'm not saying that I condone it all, but I can at least understand.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and I think to the point that you just made, diversity in certain roles is great. Diversity even on like a hit network show would change the landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity within the boardroom or the executives is what needs to be made.
100%. There's still a lot of white men in control.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, and again, this is why I can't even fault them because look, if I was white and I want to tell an interesting story that sticks out to me, I've lived my whole life as a white man, so these
Right.
are stories that interest me.
Mm-hmm.
My story as a black kid is not going to interest you. So that's why if we put ourselves in executive positions, that's where the diversity in stories are going to come out. And it also takes diversity with the capital as well.
Mm.
And it takes people who are willing to make a chance. And I'm glad certain, you know, outlets and distributors are taking those chances. Like HBO, they didn't have to make Watchmen, you know, set to the tone of you know, Tulsa. They
Right.
didn't
Yeah.
have to do that. They didn't have to put, you know, Regina King as the lead. Like they didn't have
Mm-hmm.
to. But I appreciate moves like that because that's a true move, you know,
Right.
in trying to make diversity a real thing.
That's and that's the point that I was trying to get across, but I don't know if it actually came out that way. But yes, it's like it's taking the roles that, you know, you'd hire fucking Charlize Theron for every single time and actually putting a black actor in that role who would be great, but just, you know, somebody that's taking these same little stories and just putting in black actors instead of always hiring the white actors.
Very much so. Listen, don't send me out for Harriet Tubman 5. Give me James Bond.
Yes, exactly.
That's
Oh
all.
my God.
That's all I'm saying.
Harriet Tubman 5. Oh, geez, Louise. Oh, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And you're going to have to come back because I love talking to you.
Of course. I mean, this. I know we set our intentions before this, and we breezed right past them.
Yeah, we did. we really did. We went so far beyond the intentions, but I loved it.
But it's good. We got history like that. I mean, I'm sure collectively between you and I, we've got stories for days. We've barely scraped the pot of these stories.
It's true. It's true. We could probably host our own podcast together of just all the stories.
I would not put it past us. To be honest with you, let's do a round 2 sometime.
Let's do it.
I would love that, and then we could just figure out. We could jump right into the stories.
Where can people find you on social media?
People out there, press the magic button, hand clap. What's up? Yeah. Woo. All right. Listen, you can find me at Blackmouth, BLACKMOUF. Even if you just type in Blackmouth, that's how you find me. If you go past page 1, you will not find me anymore because I was Blackmouth for everything: Twitter, Instagram, website. That's how you get a hold of me.
Thank you again so much for coming on the show. It's such a joy to talk to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Always a pleasure. Always good when we connect.
Thank you again to Denzel for coming on the show. I love speaking with him. He's going to have to come back. You're going to have to come back, bud. Sorry. Just so that we can talk. I don't even care if you share a story. We'll just talk and I'll record it. And it'll be an episode. Tune in next week to hear my conversation with Bless This Mess actress Lisa Linky. You may also know her podcast, Go Help Yourself. We have a great conversation. Super excited for you to hear it. Until then, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast wherever you're listening to it right now. You can also follow us on social media. Those links are in the show notes. Make sure to tell your friends, your family, your dog, and maybe your parrot. Do you have a parrot? I like parrots. Parrots are cool. And as always, thanks for coming in.
Hi, I'm Alexis Ohanian. You may know me as one of the co-founders of Reddit, but more recently, a large part of my identity is being a father to my 2 wonderful daughters. In my podcast, Business Dad, I'm hoping to open up the conversation about balancing careers and family. The one thing I constantly hear successful people say, without fail, is that they wish they'd spent more time with their kids. That's time no one can get back. So I decided to create Business Dad to engage in the conversation about how we're spending our time now, providing a forum for successful dads to share their joys and challenges of being a working parent. You'll get to hear from a wide range of business dads, from Rainn Wilson and Guy Raz to Todd Carmichael and Shane Battier. And while this podcast will talk about business and will definitely be featuring dads, I think everyone can learn something from these incredible conversations as we unpack the expectations we all have about careers, relationships, and ourselves. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.